Gilmore to Andrechuk, shooting, score! Dave Andrechuk hits the 50 mark, down the backing, racism. Holy Mackinac, he's got three! Far side, now to Tavares. Tavares down the right wing, trying to barge to the front of the goal, he does! They score! They score! The Leafs have won the game! Nice jumping it in as Tavares one-handed in front. The Leafs are coming home, and they've won Game 5 by a score of 2-1. Holy mackerel, what a play!
All right, welcome everyone to another episode of the Leafs Lounge podcast. I am your host, Josh. Still missing my co-host, Justin Kudo. He is off this week on a little personal vacay. Good for him. But he is missing some great discussions for sure and excitement on obviously Game 6 tonight. For those tuning in, appreciate the support. If you're tuning in for the first time, you can find all our episodes of the Leafs Lounge on the Chilltown Hoops YouTube page as well as Sports Fluent YouTube page. We thank both of our partners for hosting our show here, our podcast. It's been a great ride, great experience. So we really appreciate everyone's support going forward. If you are tuning in to the live recording, and just so you know, we are here every Tuesday and Thursday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. If you are watching, feel free to drop a comment, and we can even bring you on if you want to ask a question, make a comment about tonight's game or any Leaf hockey-related topic. Would love to have you on as a guest. So just, throw in a comment, let me know, and we can send you a link to bring you in and, bring you through onto the live here. So, obviously, we know we got Game 6 tonight. Leafs Bruins. Leafs come through in overtime in Game 5. Matthew Knies, as we saw from that highlight that I've probably watched, 30, 40 times easily. Very exciting game. Obviously, very anxious and nervous game for Maple Leaf fans. Not a very high event game, to kind of steal a phrase from Sheldon Keefe. It just felt like, it was going to be a 2-1 final because both goalies, Joseph Woll and Swayman, were unbelievable. It just was very kind of edge of your seat viewing, not knowing obviously what way it was going to go. Obviously could have been the end of the Leaf season, but we now know we have Game 6 tonight. Let's go. So on today's episode, we're obviously going to do a little bit of a breakdown on Game 5, not spend too much time on it. Want to focus more on previewing and teeing up tonight's Game 6. Let's kind of get into the recap of what happened in Game 5. Obviously, Joseph Woll gets into his first game, at least starting his first game. He came in relief of Samsonov in Game 4. There's no other way to describe it other than it was a heroic performance. He was incredible. Obviously, the first period, the Maple Leafs came out on fire, throwing pucks on net and just a lot of offensive zone possession. Woll didn't have a lot of work. And it was kind of looking like one where we've seen before, where not a lot of work on the goalie. We're firing pucks on their goal, and we just can't beat their goalie. We know it's been enough time, especially during the playoffs, that this Maple Leaf team gets goalied. So it was getting to the point where it's like, oh my God, like, what's going to happen here. Bruins' first shot on goal is going to go in or whatever. And I wasn't that far off from that, actually, even though the Leafs got the first goal of the game. Jake McCabe, point shot off a Domi won faceoff. And it's 1-0 Leafs. And they were controlling the play. So it felt like, okay, can we get a little bit more of a lead here just to give Woll a little bit of a, not have as many nerves going for him, give him a little bit more support, build up a lead. But of course not. Apple turnover in our defensive zone. You got the Robertson, Holmberg, Yarncroke line on. It was Simone Benoit actually trying to do a little soft backhand pass to a teammate right around the net front. Deflection, kind of a bad break, but still not exactly a very smart, strong play by Benoit, the defender, and gets kicked out in front of the net. And Trent Frederik kind of has a easy look and puts it by Wall, and we're tied at 1-1. And I think they're just the collective sigh from all Maple Leaf fans, like, okay, here we go. Here we go. We had our chance to kind of build a lead. Swayman's good, and our goalie just allowed a shot in. I think it was the second shot on net at that point. And yeah, it just felt like we weren't going to be able to recover from that. And look, that was the only goals that were scored in regulation time. So it just felt like, yeah, we got to find a way. Obviously, without Matthews in the lineup, it just felt like, where are the goals going to come from? And yeah, we were, I guess played a good game just in terms of possession. Bruins, definitely not one of their better games. I think we got to recognize that when we look at the takeaways from Game 5, it was not like finally the Maple Leafs team really came together, great team effort, and everything was clicking. No, Bruins didn't bring their best game, and Joseph Woll was unbelievable. And I've been talking about it with Justin and just kind of from my observations on Samsonov. He hasn't been terrible in obviously the first 4 games where he played, but he wasn't ever keeping us in the game to the extent that Joseph Woll did. He wasn't making that, he's making a couple of good saves, let's be honest, he was, but compared to what Woll did on Tuesday night, like, to me, that felt day and night. And I know some Leaf fans are going to be like, well, they couldn't put the puck in the net, so you can't blame Samsonov for what happened in the first 4 games, or at least in 3 of the 4, the ones where they lost the game. Don't blame Samsonov. And there is a lot of, I think there's some truth in that statement or that opinion. But, and I said it on the last episode Tuesday, where when you look around the league and you start seeing the teams that have either clinched their first round series or have built up a lead with 3 games won, a lot of those teams, their goalie has held the opposition to 2 or fewer goals in those games where they've won. Like, that's playoff hockey, right? We all know what it ends up being. More often than not, you're going to see games that are 3-2, maybe a 2-1, a 3-1 game. That's, I don't know what the percentage of it is, but there's a reason a lot of these over-unders and game totals in playoff games are around 5.5 as opposed to regular season where you get mostly 6.5, right? They expect to have at least 1 or 2 goals less than the average regular season game. And I'm not sure if it's played out that way, because you get games like, Game 1, Colorado and Winnipeg, where there were 13 goals scored. And Edmonton in LA, at least the games in Edmonton have been high scoring. But, Stuart Skinner, not really deemed as an elite goalie, but in a couple of the Edmonton Oilers wins, he's held LA to 2 or fewer goals. He had a shutout. He had 1 game where he held them to 1 goal. And then you look at last night, Dallas takes a 3-2 lead, and Jake Ottinger, 3 games in a row now, he's held Vegas to 2 goals exactly. If your goalie is going to hold a team to 2 goals or fewer every game, you're probably going to win more often than you lose, right? I mean, I get it. This Maple Leaf team hasn't even been able to score 3 goals in any game but Game 2, right? So I get it. It's not a certainty that if your goalie holds them to 2, you're going to win, especially with how, awful the Leafs' offensive attack looks right now, how bad the power play's been. So I get that. It's not a guarantee, but I will definitely take my chances with the goalie who, once 2 goals are allowed, it feels like he's not going to give up anything more. You need that. And Samsonov just doesn't inspire confidence to do that. Whereas Woll, what he did in Game 5 was unbelievable. Like, there was that save in overtime, like a minute into the overtime on McAvoy. Like, pad save, unreal. Like, that could have been season right there. And even with like 7 or 8 minutes left, I forget who the Bruins player was who had that chance, but Wall kind of came right over, got his pad on the puck, right along the post, kind of moved over and made a beautiful save. Like, and again, not trying to kind of harp too much on Samsonov, but there is a difference. There is a difference between the goaltending that Wall is able to provide or capable of providing. And granted, we didn't see it a lot since he came back from injury, but he's the more capable goalie. And that is exactly what we saw in Game 5. So I don't think we have to wait for any update from the team. Wall will be the Game 6 starter. I don't think anything could change that approach. And yeah, he might have to do pretty much the exact same thing he did in Game 5 for this team to take Game 6. Because right now, from what I'm hearing, and we're still doing a little bit more of a recap on Game 5, but just to update for anyone who was kind of hoping to hear positive news on Auston Matthews, it doesn't look good for him playing tonight, unfortunately. Apparently, him and Bobby McMahon were both on the ice before the team came out for their game day skate. I think they were on for maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I think was reported. But they are not on the ice with the team right now. They're doing their skate right now at Scotiabank Arena. And as far as I saw from the last update, they are not participating, which wouldn't guarantee that Matthews will not play, but highly unlikely. So obviously tough. I think there was kind of at least optimism or hope that Matthews might get back in there. But yeah, we got to go with essentially the same lineup as we had on Tuesday. And again, as I said, hope Wall can pull it out for us. So in terms of what else we saw, Game 5, obviously Matthew Knies with the game winner in OT. He had a great game even leading up to that goal. And his series as a whole, you could probably argue he's been our best forward. He just, in terms of just, I guess, his approach in these games. I mean, we saw the little battle with Pasternak there after Knies came in to kind of break up a little bit of an altercation with Morgan Rielly. He's just been like using his size a lot more, trying to really establish a physical presence on the ice, which for myself was something that I didn't feel was there enough during the regular season, right? Like it was like, okay, this guy has great size, great physicality, skates well enough where he could be an absolute menace on the forecheck. But it always felt like, for me anyways, this year, that Knies was leaving a lot on the table. Like, he wasn't ever bad, but it was like he just kind of going through the motion. Some games he'd have a few hits and maybe a good scoring chance where you see like, okay, maybe this guy could be like a high-end top 6 forward for us, either right now or at least in the next year or two. But weren't seeing that on a regular basis. So I was a little bit down on Knies in terms of what his ceiling is, what his potential could be. But man, seeing how he's performed in this series is very encouraging. Doesn't take much to lead this team in scoring in this series, but he does with 2 goals. Obviously more an indictment on the rest of the squad than, a flattering compliment of Knies, but still, the facts are facts, and he's had a great series. And he's obviously not playing on the top line, so he's doing it in, fewer minutes than whether it's Domi, Bertuzzi, Marner even. He's not getting a lot of power play time, so he's got to obviously get his looks and make his impact at 5-on-5. And I feel like he's really done that over the course of this series, and it's been really fun to watch because the Leafs definitely one of our bigger problems throughout every postseason round and game. It's like even like for me watching that Game 5, it's like, okay, if Nylander does not find a way to put a puck in the net, we're not going to win this game. Like you saw Robertson, Holmberg, Yarncroke out there just doing cardio, like burning calories, good for them. We all need to do that, get a little exercise, but it felt like no matter who they were up against in terms of the opposition, the opposing line, Bruins line, they weren't going to generate anything. They weren't going to put a puck in the net. So it was like, okay, here's Nylander now. Can he do something? Or here's the Bertuzzi, Domi, Marner line. Will they get a good scoring chance and maybe capitalize? And, I think there's been like a lot of talk on like, we don't need Matthews even. Look how good the first line was. And it's like, they obviously were on the ice for the opening goal. Domi, good face-off win to McCabe, point shot in the back of the net. But I wouldn't say and look, it was Mitch Marner's best game of the series, which to me, I don't think says that much. He's been pretty bad, at least for the first 4 games, but he did play well, felt like he was more engaged, was actually trying to battle for pucks a little bit more than he has in previous games. So, kind of encouraging, but I wouldn't exactly say that line 1 was overly dominant. I mean, maybe from a possession, expected goals, they would probably show up very well. But just in terms of actual threatening possessions, there was maybe a handful, and that was about it. It just felt like, okay, there's Marner kind of doing his typical, circling around the perimeter, little nice possession here, or Nylander, a good zone entry. But there wasn't really much in terms of net front opportunities, really testing Swayman with rebounds and what have you. No odd man rushes. And look, a lot of that I feel is almost both ways. Like the Bruins aren't getting too much in terms of like high danger chances, but they definitely had more than Toronto did, right? They're finding a way to get either past our D or capitalize on turnovers our D makes and getting grade A scoring chances on our net. Whereas for us, for the Leafs, it's been a lot more of a challenge to do that. So, just where I was going with that, like I just find like without Matthews, goals just seem so much harder to come by. Even with Matthews, they were obviously very difficult. But I think we realize now that, game 3 and 4, he was clearly dealing with some illness. And then at some point in game 4, some kind of injury, ailment has kind of struck him to the point where he's obviously not able to get into a game. Like, I think we're past the point of suggesting it could still be food poisoning at this point or any kind of respiratory virus. No chance. He wouldn't be missing these last 2 games if it was that. At least we'd hope not, right? There's been enough guys who have gone through either flu or what have you in every sport. Like, elimination game, you play through that, even if it meant Matthews playing 5-10 minutes, mostly power play time. Like, you find a way to pump that guy with all the fluids you've got, anything you got to do to get on the ice. So feels like there's obviously an injury keeping him out. I mean, even if he were just still sick, I would think he could still be part of the game day skate. Just not feeling great, but feels like there's not enough confidence in whatever he's fighting through injury-wise to allow him to even participate in line rushes. So very discouraging. That probably also indicates if we do force a game 7, there's no guarantee that he would even be available for that one. So very tough. They're going to have to find a way again. But I just think that there's, whether Keefe, and we don't know what the line rushes look like, actually might be a good time to see if there's any report on what they're throwing out there as far as lines, if it's the same. So full morning skate is underway. I don't think they've done line rushes yet, so I think they're so I don't see any kind of indication of what the line rushes are from practice, but I will look before sign off today to see if I can update you. But I guess if Auston Matthews isn't in, expect to see the same lineup. I mean, I think Noah Gregor would be the only guy you could maybe make a case for getting in there over a Nick Robertson. I don't see Keefe doing that, so probably the same lineup. Will it be Lily again, or will they go with Brody or Gio even? We will have to see. So I guess any other things from Game 5? We talked about Nyes, talked about Marner, obviously having a better game. Like to kind of move over to William Nylander. And I know this is always very controversial when you criticize Nylander, especially now that, those fans that were happy that he got that extension that he did. They think that he's worth that money. And obviously they love that narrative and, make sure that they communicate it out to all fans that William Nylander has been some kind of playoff hero and easily our best playoff performer. And it's like all this stuff. And it's like, objectively, there's nothing to that. Like I think he's now 40 points in 52 career playoff games. I don't think he's had even an assist in these last 2 games. Maybe he got one. I can't recall now, but nowhere near a point a game. And this is a player that, if you're a fan of William Nylander and you believe he's a truly elite top 10 forward, which is obviously where his new contract would put him in terms of salary. If you believe that Nylander is that dude, then the way he's going to provide ROI on that contract is production. Whereas with a Mitch Marner, people are talking about, he had a great game 5. And really, he just had 1 assist and that was about it. But he was pretty good defensively. Looked like he was kind of obviously more determined on, puck retrieval and all of that. But Nylander, he's not the guy who's doing all that stuff. Like, I thought he was a little bit more engaged in game 5 than game 4. But Nylander is always going to only, in my opinion, return value if he's putting the puck in the net or if he's making a play to help a linemate put the puck in the net. Like, you're never going to watch a game where Nylander is playing and he goes zeros, basically donuts on the score sheet, the game sheet. But you're like, wow, did you see that forecheck by Nylander? Did you see that great effort on that back check or that board battle, that hit he threw? No, like you don't get any of that from Nylander. So production is the only way he's going to show, that ROI. And through 2 games, and I get it, he hasn't been, he's probably not even 100%. Whether it's the migraine issue, concussions, we really won't know until probably the Leafs are out of the playoffs. But his kind of way to make an impact, to justify the contract, to justify that narrative about Nylander being some sort of playoff hero in the past, he's got to find a way. There's no reason why he shouldn't be the best player on the ice tonight. Without Matthews in the lineup, he is the highest paid. I know his contract doesn't kick in until next year, but he is the highest paid player on the ice. He's making 11.5 starting next year. Pastrnak, I believe, is 11.25. Pastrnak also, while I bring him up, he hasn't been very good at all. I'm just worried he's about ready to break out tonight, but let's ignore that for the time being. But William Nylander has to find a way. And as I said earlier, it felt like that game 5, Nylander was the one guy capable of either breaking the game open, giving the Leafs that 1-goal lead that maybe would be enough for Wall to kind of close the door, which clearly, based on what we saw, it would have been enough. But he didn't come through. And unfortunately, we've got to start holding him to a higher bar for performance and production because he's now getting paid the same, or not the same, but almost close to where Matthews is at and more than Marner. So, and more than John Tavares and more than Morgan Rielly. So, got to kind of expect more from him, raise expectations. And if he's that dynamic elite player that's worthy of making 11.5 sheets, he has to bury one tonight, plain and simple. I think he has to bury one. You saw Edmonton game last night, Leon Draisaitl steps up with 2 goals. Like, your elite players have to find a way. And we're obviously down our top guy. But based on kind of where Nylander's contract is, and he held out to get, not held out, but he kind of was asking for this at the beginning of the season and wasn't going to take a penny less, clearly. he's got to perform. He's got to show us that there's a reason why he's making that kind of money. And him just getting 4 or 5 shots on net and the puck not going in ain't going to do it. That won't cut it. So that is my, I'll digress there. That's my rant on Willie Nylander. Okay, so moving on, the blue line performance. Obviously, when you look at only giving up 1 goal, easy to say, yeah, defensively you played very well. But other than Jake McCabe, didn't like the play of any of the other D-men. I didn't think Benoit was particularly good. A lot of fumbling around in the puck. Kind of for the whole series so far, Benoit has been just okay for me at best, I would say. He just, I don't know, seems either overwhelmed by the playoff moment intensity, and he just hasn't looked anywhere close to where he was during his better performances and better periods of play during the regular season. Rielly, yeah, I think every game he just been average to me. I mean, similar to the Nylander argument, you're not going to, at the end of the game, say Morgan Rielly was great and a great contributor if he's not on the score sheet. Like, that's what he's paid to do. He's paid to help kind of quarterback the power play, which obviously he gets an F for that so far in the series. He hasn't done a good job. He hasn't really got pucks on net or made great plays. The playmaking hasn't been there because the power play has been completely incompetent, right? So yeah, for me, Rielly, whole series had just been okay. Obviously, everyone was excited after a subpar regular season by Rielly standards. Everyone's excited to see playoff Rielly. Here comes playoff Rielly. Don't worry about what he's done in the regular season. Playoff Rielly, switch will be turned on, and he will step up. Okay, we're through Game 5, and he hasn't yet. So definitely concerning there as well. Joel Edmondson, he brought some physicality. I didn't mind his game too much, but not great. Lily, still, yeah, for me, just too up and down. There's like, on one shift, her make a great outlet pass or her have a good pinch and keeps the play alive in the offensive zone. But for me, there's at least as many, if not more, bonehead plays, trying to do a stretch pass, and it goes for icing. Him and Rielly, they probably lead the league in icings committed. So I didn't see enough from Lily. Who else do we not talk about? Lyubushkin was okay, and I think he's still the only player, probably the only defenseman who hasn't been on the ice for a goal allowed, goal against, which I believe still held true through Game 5. I don't think he was out there for the Frederik goal. It was Simone Benoit, I believe, and I guess probably McCabe. I'm not 100% confident on that, but yeah, I don't think Lyubushkin's been on the ice for a goal allowed. So, I mean, I guess you got to assume he's doing something right. But yeah, like not seeing that great physicality, open ice hits, like you're getting that from McCabe and Benoit and Edmondson, not really as much from Lyubushkin. So yeah, the blue line, I think we all knew this would be, a area of weakness and maybe what can hold the team back from advancing the playoff run. Still feels like that's a big reason. If and when, if or when, let's be positive. If or when the season ends, it will feel like, or probably it would come off like a defensive miscue, a turnover. Just don't have the same kind of faith in this D compared to when you watch like Dallas, Vegas, even Edmonton, Colorado. Like no matter who's out there, it just feels like for the most part, they're going to make the right plays. They're not going to be fumbling the puck around as much in the D zone. They're going to find a way to get the puck out and up to their forwards. Whereas our defense, it's like kind of like you see a couple of these defensive zone shifts where they're pinned in their zone. It's like, are they ever going to get out of their zone? Like just ice the puck, take a penalty, because otherwise it's going to go in the back of our net. So they can be a tough watch. But yeah, I guess that kind of wraps up my thoughts on Game 5. Obviously, very exciting finish. And, it's just, I think, putting that seed of doubt in the minds of the Bruins players. Same team that allowed the Florida Panthers to come back from a 3-1 series lead last year, right? And obviously giving up or, losing games at home in Game 5 and Game 7. So there's no doubt that that's going through the minds of some of the players, the ones who were there last year, which I think the majority of that group right now was a part of that mix last year. So, yeah, I think it's got to be in their minds right now. And going into tonight's game, I think they will be playing. I mean, they're kind of they got a lot of veteran players and they're well coached. So I'm not sure they're going to be playing tight again, but they definitely look that way in Game 5, right? Especially in period 1, and you could probably argue throughout the game. They just felt like they were fighting it. Their passing wasn't very crisp like it was earlier, and they weren't generating too much. Obviously, they had a couple really good scoring chances off like Leafs breakdowns defensively, but throughout the game, there wasn't like a sustained Bruins attack, at least not from what I can recall. So hopefully we get that same Bruins team that's playing tight and not looking like they're, that intimidating of an offensive threat. But of course, the key will be we got to find a way to put more than 2 pucks in the net, right? Like that would be nice. Get the power play going, and please don't take any dumb penalties. Like they were very disciplined in Game 5, and I think you're going to need to do that again, because if Wall plays even, similarly to how he played in Game 5, I can't see the Bruins getting more than 2 goals 5-on-5. Power play is a different story. If we go to the box 5 times, I could easily see the Bruins scoring twice, 3 times even, with how bad our PK has been. But if we can kind of play most of the game 5-on-5, or at least have us with the advantage power play, I think we can take it. I really do, because I just have that much more confidence in Wall than I do Samsonov. And I think the team does too, which for me is just kind of very perplexing as to why Samsonov was the guy through Game 4. Like it just felt like after that Trent Frederik goal in Game 3, you maybe give him a chance to battle back, see if he can help the Leafs to a win. Didn't happen. Let in 1 or 2 more bad goals in Game 3. I don't think you should have gone back to him in Game 4. I don't see how that was the consensus in the Leafs coaching room, or maybe it would just keep saying, nope, Samsonov is our guy. Let's try it again in Game 4. So I feel like with Wall, it's 3-2 for the Maple Leafs right now. But anyways, doesn't matter right now. There's still an opportunity for Wall to help win this Game 6 and force a Game 7. So curious to see how that transpires tonight. I will actually be attending the game. So just so people can either, inspiring some confidence. I don't know if you know the history of Brian Hayes from TSN Overdrive. I think he's been in the barn for every one of the home playoff losses, which has now been 6 in a row. So there's petitions out there online that you can sign to keep Brian Hayes out of the arena. But I'm sure he will be there. So I'm hoping my attendance at the game will sort of balance that out. So any kind of, bad kind of omen that Brian Hayes is on this team by him being at the game, I hope I can balance that out. Because my last round 1, we won't talk about round 2 because I was in the building for Game 2 of round 2 against Florida last year, which didn't go very well, as you know. But I didn't go to a round 1 game against Tampa last year, but 2 years ago, I was there for Game 1, which was obviously a Maple Leaf win. I forget if it was 5-0 or 6-0, maybe 6-1. So that was my last game that I attended in a first round. So based on that, I would think Leafs are guaranteed to win tonight, right? You got to think. So yeah, hopefully I can bring some luck to them. Obviously very excited to be going. Should be great atmosphere in the building. Obviously, you're going to get Leaf fans if we do fall behind 1-2-0. Everyone's going to be complaining and on Twitter, like, what's going on with this crowd? It's like a library in there. Worst fans. Like, just find a way to not have to worry about that. If you can get out to a 1-2-0 lead and Wall's playing well and the team is being physical and throwing the body and not turning the puck over, this team will get behind, or the fans will get behind this team, and I guarantee it won't be quiet. So looking forward to that. I want to just take another quick look. I assume right now at practice they'd be doing line rushes now, and maybe there's an indication of what we can expect to see tonight. Give me 1 second here. Auston Matthews skated hard for approximately 30 minutes with conditioning staff, and unlikely he plays tonight. That is horrible. But I don't see any line rushes yet, so it looks like either some drills or, there's no indication of the lines yet right now. So we got to assume Auston Matthews will not play. I was hoping can maybe get some good news communicated to you guys if you're watching here live, but unfortunately I cannot do that. Ant Tello, how you doing? Thank you for coming on to the live and supporting. Appreciate it. So, anything else to expect from Game 6? I think we know the Bruins are probably going to have a bounce back performance. I don't think we're going to get that same squad that played in Game 5. They're going to definitely sense the urgency. They don't want to, as much as, you could say, would they like to close it out in Boston? I think based on what's happened to them as recent as last year, can't see them wanting to do that, go to Boston. So I think they're going to come out with an extra jump in their step and try to get an early lead. And that's the way this Bruins team is, right? You let them get out to a lead, they're just going to clamp down and not give you much in terms of opportunities, scoring chances. So I think it's imperative for the Maple Leafs to not only get out to an early lead, but try and hold it through to the third period. Hopefully it's not just a 1-goal lead. That would obviously make it a little bit less anxious for myself and any fans in the building or watching at home. But I think key would be to not have to be playing catch up, because I just don't think there's enough firepower here, nor is there enough confidence in if the Leafs have to go on an all-out offensive attack and, press up and have their D pinching on every possession. That's how you're going to get burned by this Bruins team. They have a counterattack, and they just have to be careful about that. But if the Leafs can kind of build a lead, carry it through to the third period, obviously Wall is going to have to be brilliant again. But I think that's the best chance this Leaf team has to win the game, which obviously, pretty clear and not exactly a hot take. But I think especially without Matthews and knowing how the power play has not executed, it just feels like this team cannot get behind, especially like 2-3 goals and expect to win. So let's hope we get out to an early lead and we don't have to worry about that. What else was I going to talk about? I guess in terms of betting lines for tonight, the Leafs were a, sort of a favorite, just kind of getting the home ice edge, but now it's even right now. They both have their odds, Boston and Maple Leafs money line around -110. So maybe that's kind of a, coming off the Matthews reports that he won't play. But actually, I've been seeing on FanDuel, the Bruins are actually favored right now, -114. So, not a lot of faith in the Toronto Maple Leafs to pull this one out, according to the books. But they were also a heavy underdog in Game 5. So maybe the Leafs as a barking home dog is exactly what they need. In terms of anytime goal scorer, I think William Nylander, seeing his odds at like +145, that might feel like one of the best bets if you're a Nylander believer. I actually am for at least tonight, because I'm just trying to presume that he's going to get all the ice time he can handle. And then some. And as I said earlier, he's got to find a way. He's got to find a way to put a puck in the net, or I think we'll be in trouble. Because as effective in terms of like maintaining possession as Domi, Marner, and Bertuzzi were, like that line one, it just felt like that puck wasn't really going to get in the net. Like there's too many shifts where it's like, okay, Domi, there was a 2-on-1, Domi and Bertuzzi, where, and I'm sure every Leaf fan who's watching here knows exactly that play. Domi couldn't have been making it any more obvious that he was wanting to pass the puck to Bertuzzi. I don't think he even looked at the net, looked at the goal. It was just eyes locked on Bertuzzi the entire time. And then, of course, he tries to pass it to him when it was clearly too late. And I think it even skipped on Bertuzzi and didn't really get a good shot on goal. So that's kind of the worry, right? You've got Domi and Marner out there on line one. Two players who are definitely pass-first guys, great playmakers, but, they're playing with Bertuzzi, who, as effective as he is, as great as his compete is, and he's physical and all that, you're not going to feed Bertuzzi for a clapper at the face-off circle and expect him to score. Like, if he's going to get a goal, it's probably because there's been a puck on net and he's there for the rebound. Or, if it's a 2-on-1 and he's in a position to get a pass, he could bury it from in close, but certainly not a guy that you would expect to score from, outside of the perimeter. He's going to be more of that net front presence. So if Domi and Marner aren't going to be shooting the puck, it just almost makes that first line feel like very unintimidating, not intimidating. So I do worry about that, but maybe the Nylander, JT, Nyes line, that to me feels like our best opportunity to produce a goal or two or three. Like I didn't feel Tavares was overly effective until obviously that overtime play where he made that incredible rush to the net and then even used his skate to kick the puck back out to the front of the net where Nyes was obviously able to fire it in. So I feel line two is going to be where the offense has to come from tonight if we do get it done. Obviously, it could come from the power play, but I think we've been waiting for that all series and kind of feels like false hope at this point. But hopefully Nylander can find a way. Nyes probably is playing with a lot of confidence right now, so hopefully he can chip one in. I think Keith should probably use his fourth line maybe a little bit more than he did in Game 5. And I think to do that, you would want to get out to an early lead where you can kind of at least try to have Revo, Dewar, Camp, try to at least, have a good shifts, try to pin the Bruins in the offensive zone, keep maybe a couple of their scoring lines hemmed in the defensive zone, get them tired out with the forecheck, with the board battles. That would be ideal because I think there is more that the line that L4 can give. I don't think they were very effective in Game 5, but I feel there is more that they can provide if they're given more ice time. And then, hopefully the D can kind of hold the fort, just be like more crisp with your decision-making, your passes. Like none of these, like Benoit's got to cut that crap out with the, I'm like right beside my net. Let me just try a little backhand pass, no look to a guy that I think is there, and hopefully it doesn't get picked off. Like, just be hard on the puck. If you have to ice it, if you have to just flip it out without having a outlet pass or, a line mate that you can actually get the puck to, don't worry about that. Let's just kind of live to see the next shift mentality. Because some of these turnovers are just really tough, and it just feels like this Maple Leaf team always has those turnovers that end up in the back of our net, right? Whereas especially with our inability to put the puck in the net, turnovers from the opposition end up just maybe leading to a shot on goal for the Maple Leafs. Like, it just doesn't feel like we're capable of capitalizing the same way, a more opportunistic team like the Bruins is, right? Because, obviously you've got guys who can finish on this team, but yeah, you're down your best shooter. Even McMahon is a guy who can finish. He's not available as well. So you're left with kind of Nylander, Tavares, Nyes maybe. In theory, Robertson, but we definitely haven't seen that. He doesn't have a goal in the series. We keep hearing, or at least from fans, yeah, Nick Robertson got to get him more opportunity. He's automatic offense. I was definitely one of the ones as Justin, come playoff time, I don't know if Nick Robertson is the guy that you can count on or should count on in your lineup. It just feels like when the room out there closes in and you just don't have the same ice to make plays and to get in areas where you can, get a shot on goal. You always have to have players who are fighting for pucks and winning puck battles. And Nick Robertson isn't that guy, nor is Nylander, nor is Mitch Marner. So it's not a surprise why in the past and even in this series, all those guys have found it very difficult to generate, to get to the front of the net. They're mostly guys who play on the perimeter, like Mitch Marner, Game 4, beautiful goal where he did the opposite of what I've been seeing him do for the rest of the round, right? He took it to the net. He's like, yeah, okay, I've got to get to the net. I've got to create something here. But Nylander, Robertson, they haven't been able to do that. So without that, it's going to be tough. You're probably looking at another, maybe 3 goals, but more likely 2 goals. And you're just hoping and praying that Joseph Woll will not give up any more than 1 or 2, which is a tough spot to be in for any goalie. But I think he's capable enough, as I said. So hopefully we can get it done. All right, guys, I think I will wrap it up there. But yeah, really appreciate your support. If you enjoy the show, we'd ask you to kind of like and subscribe to the Sports Fluent and Chilltown Hoops YouTube page. As well, you can also find any past episode just to get you caught up on the kind of content and discussions we've been having over here. Win or lose, we will definitely be back on Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern for a new episode of the Leafs Lounge. Hopefully it's to talk about, the Leafs having won the series in Game 7 at that point. But if not, we will be doing a post-mortem and talking about every issue that we saw with the team and what can happen in the offseason. So I think those will be exciting episodes to tune into as well. You can also find us on the Sports Fluent Twitter account, page, and Facebook as well. So a lot of ways to find our content and these episodes. Hope you continue to support. And we'd love to bring you on for an episode and have you on here live with us. So thank you again, everybody. Leaf fans, we got this. I think we're going to force a Game 7. Enjoy the game tonight. Go Leafs, go.